know me, I'm Angelique Roche, and I'm going to be doing this panel that you have all been waiting for. So, without further ado, I want to bring to the stage Miss Hailee Steinfeld! Hailee, you look amazing. I don't know how you're walking in these shoes. I don't know how you're walking in these shoes, but you look fantastic. Do you want to take a spin? I've been talking to Hailee about her denim game. It's been on point. Thank you so much. You know, it's the little things in life, but nothing about your career has been little. I mean, you started off with a big bang, and you have continued, right? Now you are somehow a superhero on multiple fronts, both with powers and without powers. Gwen Stacy, Kate Bishop, Veep, Charlie, Maddie Ross, Emily Dickinson, like I literally had to write them down. Whether animated, live action, you know, you've dealt with kingpins and Old West, robots in disguise. One of my favorite ones in disguise. You played a lot of tenacious characters. For you, I feel like that's just part of your story and part of your character as a person. But is there something that has specifically drawn you, whether you're being drawn or live action, just to those characters?
I would say I do think there's definitely a through line. There are a lot of similarities in the characteristics of these characters. And I think the main one is that they are these strong, independent young women who have a point of view and have a voice that they will stop at nothing to be heard. I'm inspired by that. I feel like I've been so lucky to play these roles at parts of my life where I've needed them. I love that they've connected me with people in the way that they have. And I think there's an ambition that they all have. There's a drive that I share with them. I also just feel at the end of the day so lucky that I'm at all in any capacity considered to take all these types of roles. Because they're very strong and they're not always super easy to tackle. But again, I feel like I come out on the other side more like these characters, if anything, or at least more like the parts of them that I love. Love that. You can ask y'all how you're doing today. How's everybody doing? But I will say, the little time that we spent together, I know you guys are capable of being a lot louder than that. I said, how are you guys feeling? So, for those who don't know, 65 nominations, 24 wins, spanning your work over all of your career. Acting, singer, and you're only in your mid-20s. One, I really have a lot of work to do with my life, but two, you know, you've already had what some would call a successful career. And you keep going. You know, for you, what keeps you grounded?
I would say, firstly, my family, the people around me, my support system. I'm incredibly lucky to have people around me and close to me that keep me in check and remind me that I do this because I love it and I do it because it makes me feel like the best version of myself. And it's a big old world we live in, and it's easy to get caught up in the minutia of life itself. But I have them as a constant reminder to be true to who I am, as hard as that might be at times. And I would owe it all to them.
Family is key. And you have joined a lot of amazing families, including the Marvel family. And we have to talk about our two most recent characters that folks are, you can clap, that's fine. They're so polite. Y'all are so polite to me. No, clap. And probably, it might be one of the two most cosplayed characters. And I say this as a person who judges cosplay. Okay. Kate Bishop,
that part is probably one of the craziest parts. It is so wild. Again, I feel like I'm lucky enough to work on these projects that I love. I get to play characters that I resonate with, that I feel close to, and then beyond that, it enters your lives and your homes and your phones and however, you know, your reading materials, whatever it is, and it gets to make an impact for you, and I get to be a small part of that, and that to me is just like the most insane thing, and I've had the best time being here in San Antonio at this con. It's been so wonderful to me. The effort that you put into the costumes and the detail and just the love and the support is truly felt, and I'm so, so grateful. But yeah, it's a wild thing being a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's been an absolute dream come true, and while it is a big universe, it feels like you're on just your own little planet, and you have your own little family, and when we did Hawkeye, that's exactly what it felt like. It was intimate, and it was special, and every single person involved cared so much about making the best possible project for all of you. And I think that's been a really important thing for me too, is doing these characters justice, because they are so loved, and I understand exactly why, and I can only hope that I can add to that.
So, I'm glad you the most polite audience ever.
Nice.
All right, Texas.
Hello.
So, let's go to Kate Bishop, because for folks who are Kate Bishop fans, it is hard. Only more hardcore of those who love Lucky Luke. Right? Pizza. So, you know, what I've kind of heard is that you really threw yourself into this role. You had to learn some new things. There's a lot of physicality that comes with this. Obviously, you are a superhero and a baddie. You know, for you, what did it look like training? And do you feel like that's now been advantageous words today? Advantageous to the roles you've taken afterwards, right? Because, you know, bow and arrow is not, you make it look easy, that is not easy.
Does anyone in here do archery?
No. Yeah.
Yes? Okay.
They
People
know.
here do. Okay, then you know. Like, I underestimated that big time. I knew I had my first lesson coming up. I had about 2 weeks, and I was on tube for hours and hours on end. I was watching so many videos of every version of, I just like hours on the internet spent watching archery videos, right? And by the time I got to my first lesson, I was like, I saw the bow and arrow right there. I was ready to go. I had my little, form figured out. I watched some videos. I had it down in my head.
You had a degree from YouTube University.
Yeah, exactly that. And I had my first lesson, which was about 2.5 hours. The entire lesson was spent sitting down, listening to my wonderful instructor talk about the ins and outs of archery. I didn't get to pick up the bow and arrow the first time, and I was so mad because I was like, I had it down, I've been practicing in the mirror, people. I also had a midnight everybody. So, that's after that. But I got there and I was like, I'm ready to go, I've got this, all you gotta do is just tell me where I gotta hit everything and I can figure the rest out. First whole lesson, I didn't even do it. Looking back on it, those 2.5 hours were long, and I was like, my God, I'm never gonna stop talking. I'm an idiot, watch the videos, I got the degree. But looking back on it, I really appreciate that first lesson and understanding the mechanics of it and being taught by this person, because you do get so thrown into it, and by the end of it, you don't. Basically, I wanted to have spent enough time with the bow and arrow and with the just physical training side of things, so that when I got onto set, it would be secondhand and it wouldn't be something I was super caught up in. As much as it became secondhand, it was something that I overthought constantly, because that, again, is a part of this character that is her everything. And she is self-taught, and I guess I kind of was too with YouTube. But I had amazing instructors along the way, and it was wonderful. We had an amazing stunt team and stunt coordinator, and yeah, that's the fun part, when you get to kind of go through something physically like that and adapt and learn.
And I love this idea that when it comes to archery, it really comes down to the rhythm.
Yeah.
And for you, you know, you're no stranger to creating techniques. I hear you do other things in your life that require that. Is there anything else you think you personally learned from this role as Kate? Because Kate's got an intense story. Also, you're just very much anticipating seeing that.
So I will say, having played these characters that I do walk into loving so much, I walk away loving them even more and feeling again just inspired by them. And I think with Kate's whole journey, a big lesson I think she learns is how to sort of embrace the chaos, right? She's very easily excitable, which I am too, and she learns, you know, from Hawkeye himself that it's gonna need to be toned down quite a bit if we're gonna you know, succeed on these missions. And so she really learns just to, I don't know, keep that essence of herself, but stay focused and embrace sort of everything that's going on, and love every minute of it, but really get the job done and know that that's why you're there. I think for me, there was so much going on around me. This was my first time of being a part of something so big and so wild, and again, playing a character that is so loved by so many, and there were constant rewrites, and you know, you're dealing with little things which become bigger problems like the weather and or wardrobe malfunctions and all of these things, and it's just like you just have to stay focused on the task at hand and the goal and the end goal and embrace the chaos. So yeah.
It's like a life lesson right there. I'm gonna go home and write that down. So let's switch over to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Lauded as one of the greatest movies ever. So you pop out on stage, well, not stage, you pop out onto the screen as Wanda. But now we get to Across the Universe. Wanda's a little older, she's a little wiser. She's got to upgrade to the suits.
That's right.
As you're now going into this next phase, what was it like seeing this new, older, wiser version of Gwen for the first time?
Oh man, any time during the process of both of these films, any little sneak peek, tidbit, sketch, previs that we get to see, it's a dream, right? And when I saw the very first sort of rough sketch of Gwen in Across the Spider-Verse, I think throughout the entire process of making this film, I kept feeling like I didn't know that they could do that or outdo themselves from the first one, right? Everything is so elevated. It's so much more elevated. It already was to begin with. But I was so excited to learn that we were going to dig a little deeper into Gwen's life and her origin story. And has anybody here not seen the film?
I've seen it too many times.
That was the only time. That's the only time I'm going to be okay with going in that silent. That's good.
So they all know that, this double, you're like, Gwen,
That's right. I know. So then when I saw it for the first time, I was like, obviously I have an idea of what's going on in this thing as we're doing it. But we're recording for 4 years, and sometimes it's, 4 years on one scene. And that intro bit we did up until, I want to say what felt like 2 weeks before the film came out. And I was so pleasantly surprised and taken aback at the beginning of that film and how we kind of get our own little Gwen short film at the beginning there, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So cool, so excited for me to be a part of this evolution of this character, and I too have grown so much in the last 4 years, and it's fun to come back to this character a little older, a little wiser, like you said, and with a new little look.
Oh yeah, she's got the look.
Yeah.
I had a chance to actually talk to Chris Acco, who did work on the original concept design, and he's so proud.
Oh, wow.
So proud. So for you, this is the other thing that I kind of heard. While it is an animated movie, folks don't always know that you're in a studio a lot. But I heard that you got animated while you were actually doing the voiceover. Like, does this include poses? Are we talking about flipping?
Oh, there's a lot of flipping. Shamik, my friend Shamik Moore, does a ton of that in the booth. He's got it so down. And if he were here right now, he would literally do it, the whole thing. I mean, it's like I had the honor and the pleasure of recording with him in the booth this time around. I didn't get to do that in the first movie until we were doing some interviews after the fact, and Shamik was talking about how great it was being in the booth with all the other actors, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, at the minute the interview was over, I was like, you're telling me they had you in the booth the whole time with other people? I was by myself. And that one was a few years too. I was by myself. I didn't even know there was a possibility. So the second time around, I was like, I better be in the booth with my fellow actors, with my castmates. And so I got to do that this time around, which was so fun. But to see Shamik and have him in the room and be able to do it together, right? We're swinging from buildings and hanging on at the top of subways while having a full-on conversation. And it's great to be in the room and share that energy and not just have the recording in my ears. But yeah, it gets pretty animated in there, no pun intended, but even if it means doing a few push-ups or running around in circles for a minute to get it naturally out of breath, then that's what it takes. So.
Love it.
What?
We love you, Hailee.
A lot of eyes.
All right, I love you guys.
There's a lot of other things happening. And that actually brings me to one of my questions. So for folks who may not know, how has this, the difference between live action superhero versus animated superhero been? Are there things that kind of stick out that you feel like were the initial challenges that you're like, yeah, I did that. You know what? I didn't know I could do that, but I did it.
I would say I may have had a sort of misconception of voice work before I got into it with the voice work that I've done, because it seems so simple, right? It seems like that's all it is. You're in a booth and you have the script in front of you. Don't see animation, you do see animation, depends on the day. You've got great people in the room that are there and helping you and directing you and whatnot, but it's as easy as that, right? That is so not the case. And I realized that going from something like Hawkeye, where, you're getting your hands dirty and you're in the mud and, doing the work, to going in the booth, I mean, that's a big, you want to feel like you're in it. And I love nothing more than putting on that wardrobe and feeling like I'm in it. And there were so many moments during Hawkeye where I was like, day one on set, we shot this scene in the subway, and I remember seeing Jeremy Renner as Clint Barton for the first time, and I just was like, I fangirled so hard, but discreetly, okay? I kept my cool as best I could, but I was like, this is real, this is happening, there's Clint Barton, this is so wild, and they handed me the bow and arrow, I got Lucky the Pizza Dog, and I've got the backpack and the coat and all the things, and I'm just like, this is it, and then we did this crazy car chase scene. I'm totally going on a rant here, but I gotta share that. We did this car chase scene, which if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, right? Jeremy and I turned into, I will speak for myself, but if he were here, I believe he would agree with me. Like a 10-year-old kid, you would have thought we were at Disneyland. We were taping our phones to the front of this car just to record it for ourselves from every angle. We had both of them. I'll have to share it with y'all one day, but it was so much fun. And again, I had this moment where after we finished shooting it, I was like, this is the coolest job in the world. And I feel like a superhero. This is it's just so surreal and so exciting. And again, here I'm doing it with Clint Barton and the best Jeremy Renner of all people. And that was a really cool moment. I forgot your question and I went on that rant. Here we
are. So my last question before we get to fan questions, because that's really important.
Let's go.
I gotta know, at 13, 14, on an 8th audition, when you got the role as Matthew Ross, could you have ever imagined that you'd be sitting here right now today?
Absolutely not. No way. I don't think about, it's not often that I sit back and reflect on what I have accomplished in a rather short period of time. feels like forever, and in the best way, but I guess it's in moments like this where I hear it from somebody else, and I'm in a really cool environment like this where you guys are the reason that I'm here, and that's crazy that you have close tattoos near me. I think I saw that. Did I see that? Did you show me that? Yeah, I saw that. I got a picture of it on my phone. Okay. Anyway, it's moments like this that I get to reflect and appreciate, I guess, what I've done and everybody in my life that's played such a huge part in getting me to this stage right here, right now. It's been an incredible journey, and it feels like it truly is just the beginning. And again, I just can't thank you guys all enough for coming out here and being here with me. So it's taken the time. I know a lot of you traveled from very far and some near, but I mean I can't thank you guys enough. It makes every dream I ever had as that 13-year-old girl absolutely come true, and I'm forever grateful. So thank you.
We love you.
The idea that you didn't just walk in, you worked for it, is a big deal for a lot of folks who are like, how did you do it? All right, so, fan questions. Elena Collins from Houston, Texas. Did you know in advance that Across the Spider-Verse would focus heavily on Quinn's personal life, and how did you feel once you found out?
I didn't know too much in advance. We never received a script for that, so we are kind of learning what's happening as we're going. And like I said before, when I saw it for the first time, it really wasn't until then that I understood the weight of it and how deeply we go into Gwen's world, right? Because at that point had recorded it so many times, and you kind of don't really know what exactly is going to end up in the final cut. So I was completely honored and so just excited about it. As a fan of the character and of these filmmakers and of this film, I was excited, and obviously as the lucky one that gets to play her, I was especially excited to see that we got to go a little bit more into her world.
I love it, because Gwen means so much to so many folks. So Nahara Martin from Buenos Aires, Argentina. We know you took archery lessons to play Kate in the past. Do you still keep on practicing? Do you feel more skilled now? Now that you have practical skills to go with your YouTube degree. And how is it going for you?
So I swore when we finished Hawkeye that archery would be something that I'd stick with. And while I have done it a good amount since we wrapped the show, I haven't done it nearly as much as I sort of hoped that I would have time for. But it is an incredible sport, and it requires a level of patience and a level of focus that is intense, but somehow brings you a lot of peace. And I love it. If you haven't tried it, disclaimer, it's not easy, but I highly recommend it. It is really, really special, and something that I absolutely do need to continue doing, and hopefully we'll get to.
Also, an Olympic sport, for those who don't know. So, Raça Medeiros from Florença, Brazil. How do you build the emotional aspect of a character? Do you do playlists or maybe some reference studies of other canon characters that have similar traits?
Yes, all of the above. It's sort of different every time. I guess maybe the order in which the process takes place, but if there is any source material available to me, I've got to get my hands on it. With characters like Kate and Gwen, there was plenty of that. And one thing that can seem equally as daunting as it's turned out to be helpful is that, I know I've mentioned this a bunch, but with these characters that are so loved, you get to learn and understand what parts of them people love so much. And that was fun for me to sort of dig into what those qualities were and play up on them as best I could. Both of these characters are real human characters that happen to be highly skilled and young women that take it upon themselves to do amazing things. And so it was most important to me in all of it to make sure that they felt really authentic, and that comes with a lot of the emotional side of these characters. So yeah, just finding how their situations in life are relevant to my own, and if they're not, coming up with scenarios that I do feel I can relate to, and yeah. It's different every time, but you know, you do it.
Alright, so we have two more fan questions, and then you got autographs and photos to go to. So Gianna Putoff from Jacksonville, Florida. I absolutely love the dynamic between Kate and Yelena. What was your favorite, funniest moment with working with Florence Pugh, who is hilarious?
My favorite, what was it?
Favorite,
You said
funniest
Florence Pugh, I
moment.
blacked out. Favorite, funniest moment.
You were like,
It happens. Yeah, happens. My favorite, funniest moment. Oh, there's a lot of them.
that straight face is not very easy to keep.
Well, I will say at one point during our incredible scene together, that was one of my favorite few days shooting that show. There was hot sauce that ended up in my hair, or her hair, or both of them. Do you guys know?
I think both.
Both?
Yeah.
How do you know?
You
Oh, they vandalized every single
You
scene.
posted on
I
Instagram.
already talked about. Wait, I know I posted the hot sauce, but I just talked about how it got in my hair.
I don't know. I think it would get in your
Okay, whatever. It got it. Great. Which obviously was not intended. So when something like that happens, that's always fun to improvise around. But we improvised a ton of that scene, which I hadn't had the chance to do much with this character. So it was really fun because I was at a point with Kate where I felt really comfortable with the character. I felt like I understood her, and of course, Florence came in having had Yelena down to a T and perfect. And she is, I could go on about her. I don't know how much time we got, but she is absolutely phenomenal and just a force and by far one of the most talented people ever. And I was so honored to share that time with her, and I too love the dynamic between Kate and Yelena, and so hope that we get to see more of that.
Let's compose myself by saying thank you for the spicy details, but I'm done. Okay. One dad joke per panel. All right, so last question from Texas. Mark Vargas from San Antonio, Texas. What is your approach to voice acting, and do you enjoy aspects of it over in-person acting?
Hailee, you're my flashlight!
You're mine. Can you repeat that?
I know, that was the most perfect distraction. What is your approach to voice acting, and do you enjoy aspects of it over in-person acting? I don't know, it's kind of
I like that I get to wear my sweatpants and be comfortable. I'm in control of like the lighting, so I can set the mood if I wanted to, like, if we're doing something a little moodier, be a little bit dim, Can't do that in live action.
No.
Aspects that I like.
Do you have like a thing that you bring to the studio with you every time you like voice act?
Sometimes my dogs.
Teeny! Yeah, my
Shout out to me. And Brandon.
I love some true fans.
Yeah, me too, man. It's crazy. Yeah, but no, I always think it's so cool when actors talk about like tools they have or things that they bring. I don't have it. Maybe one day, but for right now.
You got some time.
Yeah, thanks. It's still early. I'm still early. But no, I think there's a one thing I struggled with a lot, but ended up sort of loving with voice acting is that. So, a little bit of context here. When I made my first movie, True Grit, there was a lot of dialogue. Thank you. There was a lot of dialogue, and I loved that. And for a minute there, that was all I knew, was having a lot of material to use, to emote through, and obviously communicate with. And I had gone on to do other things where there was a lot less dialogue, but similar amount of screen time, I guess you could say. And that was hard for me for a while because I felt like I needed words to carry me. And so with voice acting, that same sort of subtlety that I learned in a scene with very little dialogue but a lot of emotion carries through. But it's all you have, right? You don't have your eyes, you don't have your mannerisms, you don't have your sort of timing, you don't have your physicality. And so that was very hard for me. And for a minute, I think I was sort of overcompensating, right, for that. And going a little big with my voice, but then I strayed from what I was saying before that was super important to me, was keeping these characters real and authentic. So that was a bit of a struggle for me, but something I ended up sort of loving because it requires a level of subtlety and vulnerability that you just have to sort of channel in a different way, and that was fun for me to, again, didn't understand that was part of the concept of voice work, and as I say it, I'm like, maybe this seems very obvious, but it wasn't to me at first until I got into it. So again, it's always hard for me to sort of choose something over another, or aspects that I like more in one world than the other. I love it all. I feel so grateful and lucky that I get to do both. And yeah, other than that.
When are we getting another album?
I love your voice.
We're grateful that you love your job and you are still working and doing incredible stuff. I am also very sad I didn't get to talk about Pitch Perfect at all, but it's totally fine. Because you gotta go. I want to can we give another huge round of applause?
Make more music. More songs. I agree.
Hi guys, thanks for watching.